What's up, everybody? Andrew Cleary here, bringing you another episode of the F1 podcast, along with Jonathan Ricci today. John,
Hello.
Erica unfortunately can't make it for this episode of the podcast, but nevertheless, we are here to discuss the review of the Belgian Grand Prix. Yes, this is season 2, episode 18. Review of the Belgian Grand Prix, where Max Verstappen and his rocket ship in the Red Bull
Literally just dominated. I think it
dominated
took
from
him.
start to finish.
I think it took him 11 minutes to go from, I think it was at P14 to basically first.
Yeah. And he could, I wonder if he could have done it in fewer laps without the safety car at the start, because that would have, he was up, I think, 8 places to begin after the first 2 laps. So Max Verstappen starts P14 on the grid due to a grid penalty. We had a lot of grid penalties this weekend. I think we had about 6 or 7.
Yeah.
Charles Leclerc also taking a grid penalty. Lando Norris took a grid penalty, and then there's other couple of grid penalties as well with and then Gasly taking a pit lane start because of some electrical issues early on in his car when first going out onto the track. But nevertheless, we had a mixed up grid to start the race. And by the end of it, it didn't really look that mixed up at the end because the fast cars were dominant, i.e. Red Bull, and they flew through Spa-Francorchamps with a absolute fire in their belly this weekend.
Everyone took penalties basically to start off the second thing. I think the only good thing about Belgium is that we have the Netherlands the next week, and then Italy, Monza the week after. Because as a Ferrari fan, there's not really much to talk about this week other than literally just getting bypassed by Red Bull the whole time.
Well, there was one incident for Ferrari this weekend, particularly when it came to visor strips.
It's like you can't. It's like you can't get any luck as a Ferrari fan this year.
Oh my
and
God.
It obviously had to be Verstappen's visor strip.
So what ended up happening was Verstappen's visor strip got really dirty in the first few laps, right? And this is at this point when Leclerc was behind Verstappen, and his visor strap got sucked into, when he released it, got sucked into Leclerc's brake area and brake ducts, which caused Leclerc to go back into the pits and change tires in order to get that strap out because it was overheating the brakes.
Yeah.
And it also had a confusion, or it had an issue on the sensor with regards to his speed monitoring, because I like the call by Ferrari here to go for the fastest lap at the end and try and salvage a point, right? Unfortunately, Charles gets caught out behind Alonso at the end of the race while trying to go for the fastest lap. And in doing so, he didn't get it by 0.6 of a second. So he tried to go for a point. Unfortunately, not the case. But after the race, another race steward comes up. There's a notification saying Charles Leclerc may have got caught speeding in the pit lane. And the reason why he got caught speeding in the pit lane is because that damn visor screwed the sensors up, and he went 1 kilometer or 2 over speed when he was in the pit lane. So he gets a 5-second penalty, finishes behind Alonso, and you effectively lose net 3 points as a result of this.
It's literally like
you lose.
There was no luck. You know what I said last weekend's episode? I said Leclerc is gonna win the championship by 1 point.
Finish him.
Like some rack. I'm looking at this math. I take it back. I'm already calling my prediction like stupid. And especially the fact that Max Verstappen, like, okay, kudos to Red Bull. They had a great weekend from start to finish. No matter where you put this guy on the grid, he's just going to come a thing. But we also want to like say, you know, obviously there were some other things that happened this race, not only that it was for Red Bull and Ferrari. Lewis Hamilton collided with Alonso, and Alonso making the comment saying this guy only knows how to race from the grid, from the top of the grid. I was like, you know what?
What an idiot, closing the door from the outside. We had a mega start, but this guy only knows how to drive starting first.
You could call that guy because he is a 7-time world champion for a reason.
That was the most savage radio message I think I've heard in a long time. Like, absolute no hold back, just like complete. Like, when I first heard that, I had to laugh out loud. It was so good. But you know, It's true. But to be fair, like Lewis took full blame for it. He couldn't see in his blind spot. There, Alonso was, and apparently it was like a 50 some odd G or 40 some odd G impact, going up and then going right back down, and that's when it broke the floor and it was terminal damage for Lewis. And poor Lewis, no one could find. He's a 7-time world champion, and you think he could get a car back to the paddock? Nope. He had to walk all the way around in the track.
You know, somebody made a comment. I don't know if it was like the Kimi Räikkönen when he crashed for Ferrari. I don't know if it was at Spa or something, but he had to walk by alone, and that was kind of like the end towards his career. So someone was making that comparison. If Lewis is just walking by himself, that like, okay, is this towards the end of his career too?
Just that picture of him doing it's got great memeable content, because like I've seen the one meme where it's like, you remember in I forget which GTA, it's like the guy walking, it's like, ah, shit, here we go again.
Grand Theft Auto San Andreas.
Yes.
One of the first missions. Yeah.
So literally replace that with Hamilton. Ah, shit, here we go again.
Yeah, and sorry, just give me 1 second, but I just try to think how that was, how it came out. Yeah, no, it was really interesting. Sorry, it was CJ, main
CJ,
character.
yeah.
I was googling who was the main character. I forgot about it. A couple other things we wanted to say. Really good drive by George Russell this week to recover, especially like since Hamilton went out. Ocon, Sebastian Vettel, Pierre Gasly, and Alex Albon, took advantage of a very interesting week. And, honestly, the weather played out well on the Sunday at Spa, and they were able to, some people that we don't normally see got points this week. So that was kind of really good to see.
Yeah, I think Gasly, especially starting from the pit lane, to get to a points to finish, awesome. And then Seb taking the Aston Martin tractor and putting it in a 8th place. I thought that was great. It's good to see. I think he's kind of driving a little bit more freely now that he's retiring at the end of the season. But I hear he's doing a wonderful job with the team, because Mike Crack, the team principal of Aston Martin, was saying that in their meeting briefs, Seb's also worrying about next year's car too in that development. So even though he's retiring at the end of the season, he still wants to leave on a good note, which is great to see, and just shows how professional and truly professional that he is in that case.
So I actually, a couple of things about that. Obviously we talk about obviously Alonso's going over there. But the news of, I don't know if this is actually news confirmation, but I guess Mick Schumacher is parting ways with Haas at the end of the year. I don't know if that's very just Twitter drama.
So it's partially true in a way. So he's leaving the Ferrari driving academy, which effectively makes him become a free agent for this next year. So once his contract's done in December with Haas, he's technically a free agent, which there's been, Ocon's been somewhat vocal in wanting Mick to be his teammate at Alpine. I think they would be pretty good. I think Ocon could lead the two there. What I also heard today is that Danny Rick is maybe becoming not a reserve driver for Mercedes.
What?
Next season, and kind of doing the Albon and taking a year off potentially to try and get back into the sport in 2024. Now, with that said, I think Danny Rick is a better driver than some of the people on the grid that are going to come up. For instance, Nicholas Latifi, who unfortunately made Bottas DNF this week because he slid in the gravel, and unfortunately Bottas beached himself to avoid the collision. He may be still having a chance to race for Williams next year, which I just don't see why, because if you look at how Albon drove this weekend, he was incredible, made a Q3 appearance and really was able to battle through the midfield. And he said it's one of his best drives of his career, getting to P10, which I think is fair. He did a great job taking Williams to kind of a new level this weekend.
Yeah, and it's definitely kind of because his last points finished was literally, I think it was either Imola or actually it was Miami, his last point finish of the season. And he also had that really good drive in, I think it was Australia. Sorry. I think one also thing interesting, but not only that crash happened, but obviously Bottas going out too. I think I don't know if you heard. Do you remember hearing Hamilton after qualifying ask how far back he was, and it was 1.8 seconds, and he's just like, "Geez, man, like what?"
No, Red Bull had such a crazy car. I don't know if you saw the clip. Like it's insane. Verstappen did one run in Q3 and he was 6/10 faster. He in terms of qualification, right? He finished the top of the grid at 6/10 faster than anybody else, and he did one qualifying run. So there was a clip afterwards that saw it was Lando goes up to Verstappen, and he goes like, "Oh, you're 6/10 up only." He goes like, "Yeah, after I only did one run." and then Lando's kind of like, "Get the hell out of here," sort of idea, and like walked away laughing.
Yeah, it's just crazy how crazy that Red Bull car is. I don't know. Is there anything else that kind of really stood out to you for this weekend? Like, obviously, it was good to see us like come back from the summer break, but I know there was a couple of questions. Josh, actually from the F1, we talked about where Mick could go next year, and if he's no longer going to be a Ferrari driver, do we see him at like, I don't know, is an Alpine realistically like is his seat? I don't think so.
Well, there's two trains of thoughts here. They said depending on the compensation received that Alpine could receive from the Piastri contract debacle.
Yeah.
There was talks that they might buy out Gasly's contract at AlphaTauri and bring him into Alpine, which would be an all French lineup for the French constructor.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that is a potential possibility, but I think Ocon wants Mick. In my opinion, they seem to be. It's kind of like he's been vocal about it. So there's a couple of people that he could go after in that for that seat. I think the dominoes will fall once McLaren figure out what they're doing with their second seat now. I think it's most likely going to be Piastri, and I won't be surprised if it is.
Don't they still have to go to court for Piastri right now?
That's depending on this will be all depending on the compensation when they go to court. Like if Alpine come into a big lump sum of money, I think they could go after Pierre and do that, and then that would leave a door open at AlphaTauri, which Mick I think would then have to re-sign with Haas, in my opinion, because otherwise he won't have a seat next season. I think Zhou is pretty close on a deal with Alfa Romeo. It would make sense for him to come back. I don't see why they wouldn't want him back. He's done a great job racing for that team this season. Despite
and to be fair, this week, like he wasn't even the points, but he went from P18 to P14. It was still a very competitive, from P10 to P15. Like it was only Albon had 141, Lance Stroll 142, 143 behind. It's relatively close. There was a big DRS train going, and then at one point, 3 racers at a time were going down one straightaway.
No, I know. The first 2 laps had some of the best action all season in terms of racing. A ton of fun in them coming back. And then I just kind of it became the Max Verstappen show. And he absolutely just dominated the field this week. It was quite impressive in terms of it was pure domination, and no matter where he started on the grid, I think if he even started the back of the grid, he still would have won. He was that quick this weekend, and if Ferrari gonna have to answer because not only did they lose points to Verstappen this weekend, Charles Leclerc also lost P2 in the drivers' championship to now Perez. So Checo is 93 points behind Max, and Charles is now 98 points behind Max in the race. That's almost 4 first place finishes with Max DNFing. So I don't know. Sainz, who finished third, had a great drive, says Zandvoort's going to be their track this weekend. We got to see, because Max was absolutely dominant there last year.
Yeah, and I don't know how I feel about that, because it's also going into Max Verstappen's home country, and there's going to be a lot of orange shirts. And actually, speaking about fan questions, we'll get to one of them. It was, we've already talked about this. Do you think, actually, who was this from the pod? Let me just double check. I think this was this is from Mitch, who runs our F1 podcast. We talked about the flares last year, and our thoughts. We don't need to like re-talk about that, but I was wondering if has the FIA come out, say anything about this year at is it Zandvoort? If I'm pronouncing it right?
Yeah. Zandvoort, yeah.
Do you think there's going to be some limits on the flares that are going to be happening this weekend? Because like last year, I remember it was just an orange smoke.
They're going to obviously, I think they're going to say that's the case. But I think people are still going to bring them in anyways.
Yeah.
like they're going to do everything in their power to bring them in. So it's a matter of like, will they try and stop them? I know that like the F1 drivers urged last year to keep the flare use to a minimum because of how much smoke it provides in the track. Yeah, I don't like, they can ask the fans not to set them off, but the fans are going to set them off anyways.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
It'll be hard to tell. I'm like, is it McLaren fans or is it Max Verstappen fans out there? But what was another thing that I was gonna bring up? Oh, this is another question. Yeah, I guess time will tell. We'll see how the FIA goes. I know they try to limit the amount of flares for Spa this weekend. But Brett from the pod, he actually asked, excuse me one second. Sorry, something in my throat. To try to improve overtaking this weekend, the FIA is going to test out allowing drivers to do DRS through the last corner. Thoughts on this? Sounds dangerous, but I guess that's why they're going to be testing out before Sunday.
Yeah, so this is a tough one because the last corner, it's a big loop around. Like, it's kind of like, I can see why DRS it's maybe a safer spot to do it around the last corner. But man, like it can become very dangerous. Like, I remember, was it 2018, Marcus Ericsson, I think in a free practice or qualifying at Monza, they had it going down the main straight to like the first turn, kind of like the big chicane there. Because DRS didn't close, and the way when he tried to turn, it was just the car got picked up, an absolute massive crash.
Mm-hmm.
Right. But I don't know. Like, I think they need to test it out to make sure it's safe first. Because it isn't, because you know, I've played it on the F1 game. Like, the embankment's quite steep on that turn, right? Any small maneuver, you're going right into the wall. So they definitely need to do rigorous testing before they provide that. And I think they need the drivers' opinions as well on that case.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see on the drivers' meeting how that's going to be sold. And like, I can already see a couple of issues personally of trying. Like, obviously, we're playing a video game when we play that track, but if you're driving a car there at 300 something kilometers, yeah, it's not going to be pretty. It is not going to be pretty.
So we'll see. Did they say, are they doing testing this weekend, or how they're going to do the testing? Do they say?
I didn't see anything on Twitter today, but I guess we'll find out tomorrow at first. I think it's first practice is tomorrow.
Yeah.
We are filming this on Thursday. So we're a little delayed in our episode. So, but anyways, I just want to be mindful of time because I know we don't really have much time in this week's episode, and Erica sends her best. Is there anything that you kind of want to see after the Dutch Grand Prix? Like, yes, I would like to see how Ferrari says that they're going to go against Red Bull, and how are they going to out strategic them. I mean, based on some of their calls on last week, I don't see that's possible, but I'll be interested to see if McLaren can pick it up after just not a very good weekend this weekend. So
yeah, that was actually I'm interested in the McLaren Alpine battle, because Alpine gained a lot of points this week and McLaren got nothing. And I think they're 20 points up now on McLaren in the midfield battle. So really interested to see how McLaren is going to respond.
Yeah, and especially I know Daniel Ricciardo did a couple of interviews to talk about his departure, and I wonder now if he's going to feel a little bit more relaxed going into the second race of the second season now, so he doesn't have to worry so much about that cloud of him leaving. That probably took up a lot of whirlwind today.
I think he's looking for that another Monza magical moment, but that's going to be tough, right? Especially in that car. You never know, though. I think he just needs to drive. Of course, he's fighting for a job next season, but I think he needs to go back to the fun Daniel Ricciardo that we all know and love. And I think he drives better with that in mind.
I know time will tell this weekend. Time will tell what's going to happen, but I mean, anything can happen in the Netherlands, and anything can happen on the track leading up to it. So I think this is going to be, it's a very short week this week, but we just wanted to give you our quick opinions of the Belgian Grand Prix, which saw Max Verstappen inch a little bit farther ahead of Charles Leclerc in the standings, and he's slowly getting closer to capturing that title.
I really think if Charles doesn't beat Max this week at Zandvoort, I really don't think they have any opportunity at Monza to beat Red Bull just on based on how fast that car is. And I really think if they don't win this weekend, this championship is pretty much over on both sides. Like, barring a miracle, it's going to be over very quick, unfortunately.
Yeah, and I wonder at that point, does Ferrari just focus on the constructors if they think they have a better shot at the constructors?
Or do they just focus on next year's car? Right, at that point, because it could be locked up by, we're going race 15 now, right? It could be locked up by the US, which is in a few races.
So time will tell. Anyways, this is it for the F1 podcast this week. It is very short. I know Erica's looking forward to coming back to talk about the Dutch Grand Prix next week. And we got something cooked up in the books right now. We're not going to make an announcement yet, but stay tuned on social media and you will see something very cool. That is it for this week's episode. I think it's season 2, episode 18. I am your host, Ricci, and I'm here with Andrew. Andrew, could you do the great honors of sending us off?
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for listening on today's podcast. Please feel free to listen to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and subscribe to Ricci's YouTube page or YouTube channel for great F1 content and great Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle content too on his Twitch stream. So again,
I still have not finished that. I feel it's been a month. I need to get back on that.
He'll get back on that, but nevertheless, going to be a great week at the Dutch Grand Prix in Zandvoort. Always a fun track. Excited to see if Charles Leclerc can make the comeback against Max this week and beat him, or if Max is going to start running away with this thing that he has. Tune in next week to find out. Talk to you soon. Bye.
See you, everyone.